Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for July 15th. Halfway through July already. College football not too far away. We got mid-major Matt on breaking down the conferences. Mid-major, welcome into the pod. How you doing today?
I am doing well as we get closer and closer to college football season.
We are getting closer and closer to college football season, and we got the ACC Media Days starting up tomorrow, I believe, and you're going, right?
Yes, for me, it'll start on Wednesday. They've got some festivities and stuff tomorrow, but I'll be flying out to Charlotte tomorrow and then doing some shows live from there Wednesday and Thursday.
All right, so some inside scoops, huh? Any betting kind of pointed questions you got ready to go?
Well, they kind of frown upon that sort of stuff there, but we'll see. We'll at least find some style questions out if we can, and see if any coaches are going to give out any sort of who's winning quarterback battles and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff to be learned, so enjoy it there. And guys, we're breaking down Conference USA West Division here on today's podcast. We'll go through all 7 teams in the West. We went through the 7 teams in the Eastern Division last week, so check it out at the Sports Memo Podcast Archive tab. It's just at the top there. You just click on podcast and you can go listen to any of the past podcasts. And we've broken down a bunch of the conferences here. We got a couple more to go as we inch towards college football week 0. Only, I believe, 5 Saturdays away. So we're getting close here. And we'll start off with Louisiana Tech. The Bulldogs last year finished 8-5, Matt. 5-3 in conference. Their ATS was 7-6. Over and under. Big trender towards the under. 4-9 towards the under. I'll tell you, Matt, I saw this team live again in the game they played FAU, and you could tell the size on the defensive line. It just gave FAU a lot of trouble. They ended up winning that game. They looked good doing it. And overall, for the season, as we've seen with Louisiana Tech, they're a solid program here in Conference USA. They haven't really been able to take that next step, though, and be the dominant program that I think that they have the ability to do. What are you thinking here with Louisiana Tech in the West Division? You think they can win it?
Certainly, they could be in the mix for it. This, as we'll find out, I'll be saying that a lot with regards to, I don't think there's necessarily a dominant team here. I think everybody's got their small flaws, and I think that Louisiana Tech's big small flaw is that they don't have Jalen Ferguson, who is the 3-time all-conference player, leads career sacks. He was huge for that defensive line, and, Skip Holtz has done very good things here. 6 years, 46-33. Jamar Smith showed some flashes, 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions last year. He's got Adrian Hardy back, who is the returning leader in terms of catches and yards. Once again, we look at their non-conference schedule. They're probably going to lose at Texas, but then they got Grambling at Bowling Green and then UMass on October 12th. For teams like this, we look at when do they play the crappy teams and where do they play the tougher teams in this conference. They get Southern Miss at home, they get North Texas at home, and they get FIU at home. They do play at Marshall in November. So Louisiana Tech will probably be in the mix. They may not win it, but as you said, this is a program that's always bears watching.
Yeah, it does. And overall, with Skip Holtz, this is his 7th year here. How would you grade him out overall in his performance? And do you think the program trajectory is in a good place for Louisiana Tech, or do you think he's kind of coming towards the end of his reign here?
I'm not as familiar with regards to that, but I'll say this. I mean, we're talking about them and we have positive things to say about them, and that's always something that's good for a program like Louisiana Tech. They'll show it, week 1 at Texas. If they can win that game, which they probably won't, but if they can keep it close and then give people like, hey, by the way, there's this program in Ruston where they're pretty good. So Louisiana Tech can certainly put themselves on the map week 1 and show everybody what kind of program they are.
All right, and we got North Texas up next. The Mean Green? 9-4 last year, 5-3 in conference, just 4-9 ATS. Not a good year at all if you were betting on the Mean Green each and every week. Just 4 wins, 9 losses against the number, and one of, if not the biggest under trender. 1-11 to the under, that defense. And really, when you think about Seth Luttrell, you think about more of an offensive style, up and down the field. But for whatever reason, last year, Mason Fine and company, he was banged up some games. That was part of it there. But really, the defense played really well, Matt. What are you thinking for North Texas this upcoming year?
Yeah, they rare defensive team in the Conference USA. Only held opponents at 24.2 points per game. They've got 5 defenders back, and they run a 3-3-5 scheme, which we've talked about in previous things. 3-3-5 is an interesting alignment to play your defense. The big question on the offensive side of the ball is, can they move on from Graham Harrell, who did big-time things with this team? Brody Reeder called plays for the Eastern Washington team last year, who averaged over 43 points per game. So it seems like it could be a seamless transition. You got Mason Fine. He's got DeAndre Torrey in the backfield, and he's got Rico Bussey Jr., Jalen Darden, and Michael Lawrence out wide. If they can make that transition to on offense without Graham Harrell, I think this team will be fine. Abilene Christian at SMU, at California, home against Houston. They're 4 non-conference games. I'd say they have a shot to win potentially all 4. Now, I don't think they will, but those are 4 games that with some offense they could show up in.
So, potentially they will. And I'll ask the same question for the last team, Louisiana Tech. Right now, what FanDuel up in New Jersey has lines out as far as season win totals out on every team. So hats off to them for getting out there and doing it. And we got Louisiana Tech posted at 7.5, and North Texas posted at 7.5 wins. Do you have any interest in getting involved with either of these two off the bat? Louisiana Tech, North Texas at 7.5 wins, either over or under, Matt?
I have a small lean to the over, I guess, for both, because I have 8 wins for both of them. But that's, look, when it comes to win totals, I'll tell you how many I come up with. But for me, it's, how many wins apart or how many losses apart can I get away from the number? And since I'm only a half a win away, I don't really recommend it. And plus, what the juice on either of them, it's not like they're even money on the over. So, no, not necessarily a recommendation, but a slight lean to the over.
All right, good stuff, Matt. We're talking with Mid-Major Matt right now on the Sportsmemo podcast, doing it every day, Monday through Friday. We'll try to have 1 or 2 college football conference previews up until week 0 of the season. And you can get Matt's full season here for $300 off. We have the coupon code CFB Pod, that's CFBPOD, at checkout for his full season NFL college football full season there for $300 off at sportsmemo.com. Knows his college football very well. Matt, we're moving down the line here in Conference USA West. We got the Rice Owls up next, and when you start talking about bottom of the barrel teams in Division I football, FBS football here, I don't know if you could name too many more before Rice would come to mind. And this is the team in Houston, Texas. Very smart school, but just 2-11 last year, 1-7 in conference. Didn't win any games away from home. Did go 7-6 against the number, 6-5 over under. So right on number in terms of totals there. But talking about the Rice Owls, I believe they are season win total at 2. Would you have any recommendation there in your overall, betting preview of the Rice Owls this upcoming year?
Oh, goodness. So I do some work with Stats Inc. in terms of doing scoring and running their game casts occasionally. And I did a lot of Conference USA games and watched Rice last year, unfortunately. And this team is just, I feel bad for Mike Bloomgren. He comes over, he goes 2-11 his first year. Oh, yeah, their first 4 games at Army, Wake Forest, Texas in NRG Stadium, and then Baylor. That's a really rough way to start. And it's going to... look, this team may not have a ton of confidence. Their 2 wins last year, Prairie View at home, and they only won that game by 3, and they beat ODU by 14 points in their final game of the year, but sandwiched in between a ton of blowouts. This team's offense isn't very good. This team's defense isn't very good. At times last year, I found myself taking the under just because they're not scoring enough points to make it worth it. 2.5, as you said, is the win total here. It's hard to find 3 wins. I probably lean under, but then again, there's not a ton of room there. You get 2 wins, or you get 1 win, or you get 0 wins. This team probably wins 1 game in conference. We'll talk about the other team that stinks on this side of the division, but yeah, I don't think I'll be very interested in too many Rice Owl games this season.
Yeah, it's a tough one to bet. And Matt, I know you know these small teams very well. In terms of home field atmosphere, do you think Rice has the worst home field atmosphere in all of Division I football?
Oh, goodness. Tough question. It would have to be one of the worst in the West. Of course, we'll talk about UTEP coming up. They're another team that's probably down there. It's probably one of the worst. Rice Stadium holds 47,000 people. You're lucky if you get 470 probably by November and December. It's probably one of the worst. It's certainly not a place that's going to intimidate anybody, that's for sure.
Yeah, I just, streaming some of these small conference games, and I've watched more than enough Rice Owl football the last couple of years, man. And when they pan the stadium, there's just nobody there, and it's a big concrete structure with, like you said, a bunch of seats available. There's just nobody there. I mean, I can guarantee you there's more people at the local high school games likely. So just wanted to throw that out there. Are there any others that come off the top of your head in the Sun Belt Conference USA, really any small conference that doesn't have a good home field atmosphere?
Well, I think UTEP probably doesn't. I'm guessing Georgia State doesn't. Georgia State a couple of years ago ran a promotion where they basically dropped money from the stands at halftime. And so a lot of students came, they did participate in the halftime, and then they left. Those are probably some of the ones that I would say are towards the bottom in terms of college football.
He's Mid-Major Matt, at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. We got Southern Miss up next. Southern Mississippi, 6-5 last year. 5-3 in conference. Did go 6-5 ATS and 5-6 over under here. The Golden Eagles in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, starting off with Alcorn State before they go to Starkville to face Mississippi State. They also have at Alabama on the schedule. Matt, what are you thinking here for the Golden Eagles in 2019?
This team will go as Jack Abraham goes. The quarterback last year had 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. They've got a couple of easy ways to they've got an actually easy game against Alcorn State and then go to Mississippi State, go to Troy, and then go to Alabama. So this team has to kind of just, stay steady in that early stretch because they're going to lose at Mississippi State. They're going to lose at Alabama. They may even lose at Troy. They get 2 home games after that against UTEP and North Texas, but then they go 2 more on the road, actually 3 of their next 4. So it's not a friendly schedule for Southern Miss. 7 starters back on offense, 6 starters back on defense. Jordan Mitchell's not a bad wide receiver. Tim Jones not a bad wide receiver. They've got back a lot of the offensive line, but the question is, can they keep their confidence up after taking a beating early on? The over is worth a look potentially here, but once again, I'm only half a win off. 7.5's the total, and I've got 8, so I lean to the over, but not one of the ones that I love.
All right, so Southern Miss. And do you think that they can be competing for the Conference USA Championship?
Yeah, certainly. I think it's them or North Texas, and really I'm going to lean toward North Texas for something like this. But Southern Miss could be in the mix. They have the right pieces. Their senior leadership in certain areas and their junior leadership in certain areas. So with a team that has a lot of juniors and seniors, yeah, I think that this is a team that should be up there, but probably not number one.
All right, Mid-Major Matt, at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. And guys, if you're listening to this on Monday, that's when we're recording it, July 15th. If not, the CFB Pod coupon code to get $300 off Matt or myself, Drew Martin's NFL college football full season for $300 off. CFB Pod will work throughout the summer. We also got Matt on a 9-2 and 25-13 MLB run. So check out his MLB plays. It is $9 Monday at sportsmemo.com. Each and every Monday, all plays discounted to just $9. Moving down the line here in Conference USA West Division, we got UTEP, Texas El Paso, 1-11 last year, just 5-7 ATS and 7-5, trending small towards the over. We just brought them up as far as bad home field advantage, or I guess home field advantages you could call it. In terms of program trajectory, hasn't been good the last couple years here for UTEP. What are you thinking for 2019 this year?
Well, another program that's in the dumps. Last year, they get the FCS opener against Northern Arizona. They lose 30-10. They don't. The next 2, they get blown out at UNLV. They get blown out at Tennessee. Lose to New Mexico. Basically, their one win was at Rice. And we could be looking at another year where that last game, November 30th against Rice, is deciding which team gets the win. Wadley, the running back, is not bad. I've seen a couple of Rice games, but once again, this is a situation where they're stacking the box against him. So who knows that if he's any good or not, because he's got 9-10 in the box. So you've got that. And then Kai Loxley was just arrested. He had some off the field transgressions, and we don't know yet when he's coming back. We don't know if he's coming back. So with him as a quarterback, they have a shot, but without him, man, I don't know exactly what's behind him. Brandon Jones last year was okay as a quarterback, but there's really not a lot there. 7 stars back on offense, 5 on defense. Houston Baptist at Texas Tech, Nevada at Southern Miss. Houston Baptist, not a terrible football team, so that FCS game may not necessarily be a layup once again. UTEP could be looking at 1 or 2 wins this year.
Yeah, and when you add up their wins over the last 2 seasons, we get, 1 in 23 for UTEP, so it's tough to get much worse. It will be interesting to see where this program goes from here under Dana Dimmel, talking about another team with not a very good 2018 outcome. Frank Wilson's UTSA squad, the Roadrunners, and last year just going 3-9, Matt, 4-7 ATS and 6-6 over under. This is the team playing in San Antonio. UTSA, they start off with Incarnate Word before heading to Baylor out the gate here. What do you like about UTSA this upcoming year?
Well, the last time I looked on FanDuel, the over-under was 2 wins, with the over being, I think, around minus 182. Is that still the case?
Let me pull it up right now. It looks like UTSA is 2 with juice towards the over, minus 125.
Okay. At one point, it was a little bit worse. I think the over's the play here on UTSA. I actually like them to get 3 or 4, maybe even 5 wins this year. Look, this is a team that had so much promise a couple of years ago, and then it's kind of taken a step back. Frank Wilson is 15-21 in his 3 years at the school. You may remember they had a pretty famous coach a couple of years ago who helped get them back onto the scene. Last year, they had 3 wins: Texas State, UTEP, and Rice. And the common theme is, and we talked about this in the Eastern side too, where do you play UTEP, where do you play Rice, and where do you play Old Dominion? You know, these are the bad teams in this conference. UTSA opens up with Incarnate Word. They play at Baylor, they host Army, and then they play at Texas A&M in November. There's some talent here. The Grundy kid has a little bit of talent. There's the offensive line is somewhat strong. They've got to find new wide receivers, and the defense has to improve from last year. But 6 starters back, I think there's a chance that this team could approach 5 wins, and I think that over 2 is a thing to look at there.
And Matt, we got a question here. I want to get his name right. Looks like we got Brian Rowe on Twitter asked us a question to answer here. UTSA over or under the wins? He likes them over, it looks like. And you agree with that?
I do. So if you take a look real quick, here's how I like to do it. I like to do definite wins, possible wins, definite losses. Incarnate Word, I'll say it's a probable win. I haven't looked to see if Incarnate Word's any good. At Baylor, no. Army at home, probably not. At North Texas, probably not. At UTEP, I would say yes. UAB at home, that'll be tough. Rice at home, that'll be a win. At Texas A&M, that's a loss. At Old Dominion, that's a possible. Southern Miss and Florida Atlantic at home, you know, Southern Miss and Florida Atlantic are good, but at UTSA in the Dome, maybe this team's playing for a bowl. Maybe this team's playing for the coach's job, and then close out at Louisiana Tech. With the total only being 2, I can give you 2 wins with UTEP and Rice, and then Old Dominion, and then Incarnate Word, and there's potentially 4 right there with maybe another one sprinkled in. So, yeah, I think the 2 is a really low number for this team, and I really like the over here.
And sorry to bring this up, mine wasn't updated. I do believe it is 2.5, so that could be an important half a game. But it's interesting you bring up Southern Miss and FAU. FAU, that game is off of a bye before Louisiana Tech. It's just a tough finish there, you know, with Southern Miss, FAU, and Louisiana Tech at the end. I know you said that they could be playing for Frank Wilson there. It's a tough outcome. It's always tricky betting these really low win totals, you know, 2 and 3 like that, Matt. It's same with, 11 wins when we start talking Clemson and Alabama. I think those are tricky too. 11 and 11.5, one slip up, you lose. It's kind of the same, but the opposite angle here with UTSA towards the bottom. Would you say that the West Division is the stronger division in CUSA?
By the way, I just looked up Incarnate Word last year went 6-5. Now in their FCS games, they lost 62-30 to New Mexico and 58-16 to North Texas. So I don't know how good they are, but I would say, back to your question with regards to the divisions, I would say the East is probably better. Certainly more top heavy. I think Marshall, FIU, and FAU could be the 3 best teams, with North Texas in there depending upon how they get over the loss of Graham Harrell. Southern Miss, if Jack Abraham plays well, and UAB, which we'll get to, is another team. I would say the better consistent squads are Marshall, FIU, and FAU, certainly giving a lean to Lane Kiffin. But both teams, both divisions, if you look at the bottom, Western Kentucky, Charlotte, and ODU versus UTSA, UTEP, and Rice. I mean, that's a pretty tough group right there to decide between those 6 teams. Yeah, the East is probably stronger up top. Maybe the West is ever so slightly a deeper division.
Yeah, man, the bottom of the barrel when you start talking about the teams, I agree with you on that. In top heavy, yeah, I guess towards the east, you're right. Marshall, FAU, FIU. I guess Louisiana Tech, North Texas, Southern Miss, UAB, which is the last team we'll talk here. All solid programs in Conference USA. So let's head to Birmingham, Alabama. Bill Clark, his fourth year here. What is he the best coach in the conference in your opinion, Matt?
Ooh, him or Lane Kiffin maybe, but I mean, Bill Clark had to resurrect a program that disappeared a couple years ago. And by the way, last year they went 11-3 and won their bowl game and won the conference championship. It's either him or probably Lane Kiffin. I mean, obviously Butch Davis is there as well, so that's another one. And then we talked about Skip Holtz, who's up there. But Bill Clark has to be one or two in this conference, probably.
Yeah, no. You said it. 11-3 last year. They also went 10-4 ATS, one of the biggest money makers in all of college football. 6-8 did trend towards the under. Bill Clark in his fourth year in Birmingham, 11-3 last year. The one downside here, they only returned 4 starters on both the offense and defense here. Tyler Johnson, when he came in, I'll tell you, He can throw the deep ball, Matt. He's got good loft to it, good accuracy. I thought he was a really good quarterback. I did go to the Boca Bowl, Matt, and they played Northern Illinois, and it wasn't close, man. You could see just the difference in the size, the caliber of athlete. I know it was a MAC school, but UAB absolutely dominated, and you could almost tell in warm-ups. So they do lose a lot, though, but we'll see the depth this year. If UAB's got it, what are you thinking for the Blazers this upcoming year?
You said it. I mean, this is a team that's got 3 returning starters on offense, 5 on defense. So they've got to keep rebuilding. But you know, you saw the payoff last year. They were a very senior-laden team because, once again, they didn't have a program a couple years ago. Out of conference, Alabama State at Akron, South Alabama, and then they play at Tennessee in November. I'd have to look and see what Tennessee – let me look real quick and see what Tennessee's sandwich value is there. Could we see a situation where you might want to back UAB? I'm looking up Tennessee's schedule and see. So Tennessee will play at South Carolina and then home against Kentucky. I don't know if there's much value there, but maybe they don't take that game seriously. This is a UAB team that went 11-3 last year, as we talked about. Tyler Johnson is a kid that has a lot of talent. Spencer Brown's a really good running back. The defense is led by Garrett Marino, who signed with them back in 2015. They were able to get Jordan Smith, a linebacker from Florida, cleared and enrolled. The schedule lines up nicely for them, although there is a stretch of a bunch of home games starting in October. But I think this one goes 7 wins, 8 wins potentially. So I don't necessarily have a lean with regards to win total because I saw it 7 on FanDuel, but I like this Blazers team and think that they'll once again be in the mix with North Texas and Southern Miss.
Good stuff, Matt. As always, guys, the coupon code CFBPOD at checkout is $300 off. Matt or myself, Drew Martins. He's mid-major, Matt. His NFL college football full season, $300 off with the podcast coupon code. Check it out at sportsmemo.com. Knows his stuff. Heading to ACC Media Days tomorrow in Charlotte, Matt. Anything else you want to get out there to the listeners before we shut this down?
If they want to check out my interviews and my coverage, they can go to the website espnrichmond.com, or if they want to listen live, go to espnrichmond.com. I'll be on from 3 to 6, and we'll also be doing some reports with Kelly. I'll be talking to her live from ACC Media Day to give you the scoop that you need for college football season.
Oh, with our friend Kelly in Vegas?
Yes.
Okay, cool. What do you got on tap with her, and any other interviews already lined up?
Well, we're still working on the interview aspect of it, but, you know, at an event like this, we'll talk to players and some coaches from the divisions, from the Atlantic on Wednesday and the Coastal on Thursday. We'll have people on from the new ACC network, people that are involved with the conference, maybe even the conference commissioner himself. So a deep dive into the ACC coming up on Wednesday and Thursday.
And, Matt, is this something that you've done a couple times, ACC Media Day, or is this your first time?
No, this is, I believe, my 4th year doing football, and then in October when I do basketball, it'll be my 3rd year. So I've done this plenty. I've made some friends out there, and there'll be just plenty of talk of ACC football because, you know, as you said, today is the SEC Media Day. I believe the Big 12 is also having Media Day today, and the Big 10 is coming up soon. So we're in the thick of things when it comes to college football.
Would you say college football coaches, for the most part, when you're up close and personal with them, are likable, or are they kind of dismissive off camera?
Depends on who they are, who it is. Some of the coaches are no nonsense. I mean, if you think about it, I'm part of Radio Row, so there's probably 10 to 12 other stations. They've done interviews all day. They've been yanked around all day. And some coaches are very good at it. Some coaches are not very good at it. And you roll with the punches and see what happens.
All right. Well, good stuff, Matt. Follow him on Twitter at MidMajorMatt. Check out his full season college football NFL package at sportsmemo.com and take an extra $300 off using the coupon code CFBPOD at checkout. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow talking CFL, the Canadian Football League, every game on the board with the very profitable Andrew McGinnis out the gate. Thanks for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets. We'll talk tomorrow.